What the fuck? Season 2 of Loki may have just proven that Loki is the best show ever. I can't wait to do a full season or series review. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but let's talk about this last episode. Loki, Season 2, Episode 6, the final episode of Loki. What a freaking delight. We are literally seeing all the seeds that were planted come to fruition. Okay, let me give you a little summary here. So Loki, after going back in time, realizes, yeah, this is a thing I can do. I can fix this. I have time now. I can control time. I can time slip wherever I want in time. Woohoo! And basically goes back in time to try to redo the whole trying to fix the loom thing. That doesn't work. He then realizes that for him to fully understand and be able to speed up this process, he's going to need to understand everything about how this loom works, everything about weird time physics. So he repeats this for hundreds of years to get enough knowledge to get the plan to work. However, even when it does successfully work and he finally gets Victor Timely down the gangway and finally gets the retrofit into the loom, it's not enough because he realizes that all of these split off timelines, there's too many of them because they would become infinite. So if we don't keep the sacred timeline, we deal with infinite timelines, and there is no loom that can basically deal with infinite stuff. You can't calculate for infinite. As Victor Timely says, it's like trying to divide by 0. It's just not possible. So Loki goes even further back in time. He figures that the main issue was the fight with He Who Remains, and he basically has to convince Sylvie to not take out He Who Remains, because He Who Remains is the only thing that's keeping everything together. He goes back in time, tries to talk to He Who Remains, and in that conversation that we see, I loved this, reveals that he's done this before, and that like He Who Remains, he also has somewhat of complete control, I would say, over time. He's able to pause time like He Who Remains is, and they have this little tete-a-tete where He Who Remains basically says, look, you can choose between me, you either take out Sylvie, we maintain this one sacred timeline, and you're safe from the time wars that will come, the other Kang variants, or you can continue down your path, you free all these timelines, potentially, if it's even possible, and even if you do, everything will be destroyed in the time wars. Nothing will survive. A final warning from He Who Remains. And of course, Loki can't bring himself to take out Sylvie. He just can't do it. And he realizes it's time to rewrite the story. He goes back to that moment and decides that he has to change it. He has to be the one that walks down the gangway, which is the thing that I was predicting was gonna happen. He has to be the one to basically destroy the loom instead, and in so doing, free all of the timelines, which then proceed to try to die, I guess because they have nothing holding them. That's not really clear, but that's what happens. So Loki stops that by using his magic, touching the timelines and preserving them, becoming the God of Stories, which is the look that we see here is definitely very much based off of his God of Stories look from the comics. Very, very cool. And he ascends and finally has his glorious purpose, which of course is the name of this episode, ascends to the end of time and his throne there in the palace that was basically blown up at the end of time, which was He Who Remains' original place. Sits on a throne of gold, and all the timelines are green now because the show is called Loki, and there's so many things I loved about this. Okay, so first of all, where do we even start? Okay, I'm gonna start with just some of the theories that I had that came true. Obviously, there was allusions in the last episode to Loki becoming the God of Stories, which I figured is where we were going, and literally that is where we went. He Who Remains, I figured that either He Who Remains was going to be using Loki, or somehow Loki was going to like become that role, and that is what ends up happening in this. So that was also correct. We saw that coming. But I think the best thing about this show is that it throws you enough curveballs that it keeps you guessing. And like even throughout this episode, I was wrapped. I was trying at one point to like do something on my phone. I was uploading a short about the Marvels, which if you guys go on the channel, you can check it out. Just my like very quick little review of 3 things you need to know. And as I'm trying to get that good to go, the show just like, I couldn't do two things at once. I had to lock my phone. I had to put my phone away. I was like, Loki, you have my undivided attention. Because even though I feel like I knew where this show was going to go by the end, and I kind of saw that coming from like 1 or 2 episodes ago. I wouldn't say like forever ago. Well, maybe near the beginning of this series, I had some theories about it, but it's really about the journey. And that is, to me, the highlight of a superhero story. Because in a superhero story, we always kind of know where it's going, but we don't really know how we get there. That's what you want it to feel like. And this show, this episode, has that in spades. It was fantastic. Also, man, I'm bummed that now Tom Hiddleston will be sitting at the end of time. I mean, we might get to see Loki again. I think it's still possible that Hiddleston could come back in some capacity, but because he's basically now the like guardian of all of the timelines, kind of has to stay on the throne and like maintain all of that, is the implication that we get anyways. And the fact that he can see what his friends are doing through the timelines, because he has that connection to them through the time. Also, I don't think we can really have him come back because he's legitimately now the most powerful character I think we have in the MCU, other than the potential power of Kang, which looms over us like a threat. The fact that this show in this one episode has done more for the advancement of the overall story than so many other projects is insane to me. Although I will say, I think the Marvels is dipping a toe into that, which I did appreciate. There's some threads in there that are left that I can see where we're building into a bigger multiversal, universal story. So I do appreciate that. But this show is really carrying all that weight on its back. And I was not expecting the show to nail the ending as well as it did, but it really stuck the landing. I'm very impressed. I'm amazed. I feel like all of the cast also did such a fantastic job in this show. And I'm kind of sad that it's over because I want to see more of these characters. I hope we get to see more of these characters. I'm excited for what comes next in the MCU. It's been a minute before I've actually been like truly hopeful. Like, you know me, I'm a pretty positive person. I don't usually do a lot of reviews or reactions on things that I'm not actually excited about, just because, I don't know, I just don't understand what the point of that would be, other than maybe like Gotham Knights, which I still actually want to finish. But I would say with Gotham Knights, even then, I'm open-minded. Like, even though I'm like, this seems cringe, like, there are things in there that I actually enjoy. So I try to not watch stuff just to like torture myself. Just doesn't feel good to me, and I don't want to put that out in the world. But this is like a moment where I've still enjoyed all the stuff we've had from the MCU, don't get me wrong. Most of it, I would say almost all of it, I've really, really still enjoyed it. But I'm actually getting hyped about like, what is the future? Like, what are the stories that are coming? Like Secret Wars, what's gonna happen with that? Like the Time Wars, what's gonna happen with that? I mean, I guess we need to figure out also what's happening with Jonathan Majors, but that is a whole other topic. The way this ended was so great, and I'm really bummed though that we're not gonna get to like see Sylvie and Loki get together, because I just love them so much together. They're so cute, and I know they're both the same person, and that's maybe weird, but I don't know, I just really ship them, and I feel bad. Also, I wonder what's gonna happen with Ravonna. So we see Ravonna at the end of this episode, which is kind of interesting, and she's laying sort of in the field at the end of time, and obviously Alioth, or Alioth, I feel like I always say that name wrong. Alioth, is that how we say it? You know who I'm talking about. I think it's okay if I mispronounce one name wrong that I haven't heard in episodes, and that, like I said, I've mostly read that name. But that beast is there, and I'm just wondering if maybe that isn't the end of Ravonna's story and we're gonna see her again. I just don't believe that, like, oh, maybe she's gonna get eaten by this monster. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's really cool that the TVA still gets to exist, and now they're just trying to, I guess, track down Kang variants and make sure all the timelines are good, that Loki's like holding together. And it was just such a good send-off for this character who we've really seen come full circle and actually got like a proper ending to their story. I feel like a lot of superheroes don't get that. So yeah, overall, I really loved this episode. It tugged on my heartstrings. It kept me enraptured. The fact that Loki went back and lived centuries to resolve this issue man, just seeing him come to a place where he really feels like he belongs was really, really rewarding, and what that means to him and how much he was willing to put on the line for this one thing because he truly believed in it. And he truly believed in the challenge that Sylvie posed to him as well, of like, look, if we control everything and we make it one timeline, we're just as bad as like the bad guys. Like, we got to give people freedom, but it's like, how do you do that when it's impossible? Making the impossible reality. Also, all of the callbacks to Thor 1 and the fact that at the end he made Yggdrasil, that is, man, that is cathartic. That is such a beautiful image. There's so much beautiful imagery in this show, the production design, and we're seeing all of that highlighted in this one episode. The colors of this show, it's so vibrant. And I love that everything weaves together beautifully. Like, we're closing these time loops. There's callbacks to season 1 in this episode. It's like everything that happened in this show, everything that happened in Loki's story up to Thor, all the way back to Thor 1, feels important. And people were drawing parallels to Thor 1 and the fact that the bridge, the gangway that he's on is the same as the one that he kind of throws himself off of in Thor 1. And in this one, he finds the steps and he's able to rise up to his glorious purpose, to his throne that he so wanted. And yet in a way, it's bittersweet. And yet in a way, it's everything he wants it to be. I don't even know what to rate this episode. This is like, can I give it infinity out of 10? Is that possible? It's possible now. Loki made it possible. And what a way to bring it back to the title of the show, Loki. I mean, this show started and I thought it's kind of the TVA show. But this episode really cemented why the title of this show is Loki. And I love that. I love that it all came back. We closed the loops. And now we have to see what comes after. And the stories that come out of this story. Well, that's all I have to say about this episode. I hope that you also loved it as much as I did. And I cannot wait to talk to you guys either about the full season or the full series. I'm not sure what I want to do yet for that. Let me know in the comments if you want a full season, a full series review, or if you want me to try to do both. I can go back more to season 1 and kind of just give more of a retrospect, or I can treat my season 2 wrap up as like talking about season 1 as well. All right, friends, I'll see you in the next one. And until then, stay nerdy and have hope. Have hope with me. All right. Bye.